Alright, let's see what this thing says. Alright, we're going to... Am I live right now? Oh, I wasn't trying to do that. Alright, well, whatever. I'm live. If you hear my chair creaking, sorry about that. But I'm gonna paint me up this Ogre Shaman from Massive Darkness. I guess I'll adjust something later. What the heck is happening? Something weird's going on. Oh, maybe that's just a reflection off of the board here of me moving the brushes. Okay. Those are the brushes and other things that are going on. If anyone wants to say hi, you can feel free. I'm just going to paint this guy up. I've already done a base coat here with brown rose. This is a model color, and it is from Vallejo like paint face pack. It's like a skin tones pack that came with it. And then P3 Rin Flesh. I did a little bit more highlighting and stuff on the skin with it. Now I got to go in and head up some browns. I do not care what company makes the paint as long as it sticks and it works out pretty well. I've got 4 or 5 different companies worth of paints, so there's just lots of stuff going on there. We'll do some selections based on what it looks like here, and kind of go from there. If you're interested in watching the paint, cool. If you're not, that's fine too. I'm not gonna be bothered. I've got, you can see the shadow of me reaching over. Oh no, my paints fell down. A bunch of different shades of brown that it looks like I'm gonna have to use here. See how this goes. I lost another shade of brown behind the monitor that I might need. Okay. And yeah, I'm going to use regular paint. I'm not going to use contrast paint for the most part, because I've found that the contrast paint kind of sucks. So I'm not going to use it on this one. I've got somewhere some GW Lamia medium, and I use that to thin a few things out. But if it's on my palette and I need to, I'll also throw in some good old Vallejo airbrush. Where's it? Can you see me? Where's it at? Airbrush flow improver. And that by bulk is way cheaper than the Lamia medium. So, sometimes I just use the pots, whatever, and go from there. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get started. So if you look at here, let me find a better tool here. So let's see if I can tilt that down. Is that? Oh boy. This is not perfect focus. All right, there we go. We're getting somewhere now. All right. So I've done some, like I said, I've done some highlighting and all that. But for the brown on the cape, I like to keep the fur separate. So like whatever he would have on him being separate. So he's got these little armbands that look like they're made out of the fur, and possibly his pants could be made out of the same fur, but his shoes are made out of some other type of leather, and he's got some other stuff going on. And the underside of the cape looks like it's of a different style or a different material. So it's like the flesh part, and then the same animal's fur is on the back, but like his head is probably made out of that same soft fur on the underside of the cape. So that's where I'm kind of going to start. He does have some form of a pauldron. I don't know what real material it is, because you can see out of the Cool Mini or Not stuff. This is all from the Massive Darkness website. So the picture, that's the word I'm looking for. Picture. It's not really heavily detailed, so I'll use some gunmetal or something else. There is like an orange kind of color to the wrappings of his staff that do not look like any type of material that he's got on him. And he's got some type of tattoo here that I'll mix up and do a little bit different with. It is difficult to paint and show you guys at the same time. I'm going to give it a shot. This is I hope, going to be an easy one. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to take this Gorthor brown, and I'm going to use that for the cape, because it looks like the most similar to the dark part of everything. Let's see how this goes. This could be a 10-minute video where I get stressed from trying to make the camera work, or it could be a 2-hour video where this actually works out. We'll see. I need to get my fingers in there. Okay, so fur. Just gonna try and get in there on the fur. Oh, what happens every time I move something a little closer to me? I gotta make adjustments here. Yeah, my paint's not as new as it possibly could be, but you know, that's what life gives you. I'm using the Citadel holder, and I almost never use this thing, but I figure it'll get my fingers out of the picture for you. And some of you guys can tell, I don't know if everyone can tell, but I've done some zenithal priming already. So, you know, that helps me see where all of the different materials are and the different aspects, because you don't really see color as well as you see contrast. And even though it's just black and white, I always find some little detail that I didn't see before, and it doesn't matter to me that I'm painting over it, because now I have an idea of what I'm looking at. And it really doesn't cost that much in time, and it doesn't cost that much in airbrushing it or doing the primer one way or another. It's just helpful. And in the end of the day, I want to save all the time I can. So I have no idea what the name of this video is at the time it goes live, because I just hit a button and I thought maybe it was like getting it ready for me to type all that stuff in, and nope, it just went straight live. So shut up, Joe, get everything in there. Oh crap. That was what went through my head when I started blabbing, and you guys heard all that. So I think my recovery was epic. Anyway, get in there, get all that fur, and whatever tone you want to do. I mean, I'm gonna guess that something like this on a guy like this, he's an ogre, maybe like a bison. For an ogre, his general width and everything is much larger than a human, so his bulkiness is more than a human. So I would say it's probably not like a wolf necessarily, but it could be a bear, it could be an owl bear, whatever he was deciding on hunting. But he obviously is of some significance to the tribe, because he is a full-on shaman. And he got the shiny stick to prove it. Okay. So just keep painting. Don't worry too much because, I mean, this is like the first coat. So it's going to look like the picture no matter what I do. Because I'm going to get the colors right. Right? Just a little bit. This is helpful to a degree on camera because I can see a lot of the stuff that maybe I missed or didn't get enough pigment on. And if you think of the paint as a dust in a fluid suspension, you kind of get an understanding of the way that it's going to flow and settle. Okay. So that's going to take a little bit of time to dry before I can move on. So I'll clean the brush, move on to something else. I might switch brushes. I think I want to do, since I'm on the same color, I think I'm going to go to those. And I'm going to switch to whatever this is. Finest Red Sable 0003 Blick Round Tiny Brush. And the other one was Army Painter Regiment, I think. So I got like a whole mayonnaise jar full of old brushes, and I just kind of go from whatever feels good to the next one. So sable's weird. It's like the butt hair of a Russian weasel. So I don't want to know who figured that one out. Like, who was paid to sit there and go from weasel butt to weasel butt and see if, you know, it's like, well, it's not the Afghani one, but the Russian one looks good. Like, why are we always looking at weasel butts? It's like, because they're furry. I don't know. Just telling some nonsensical stories that probably never happened. Keeping myself occupied. But yeah, it's just weird that that's the conclusion that they came up with. And they found that, you know, they're not going to be able to do a synthetic version. They're like, nope, weasel butt hair. I would think, like, having to track those little guys down, you'd want a synthetic version right away. But maybe science has not caught up to that technology just yet. Maybe COVID slowed that down, right? We were going to have the synthetic weasel butt hair for all of our brushes, but we had to switch gears because of COVID. Thanks, 2020. Okay. So yeah, just try and get in there. If I got to go back through and redo this again, I go back through and redo this again. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to keep my paint thin as I can, and that will make it easier to paint back over if I have to. So the staff is kind of in the way at this point, not camera withstanding, also in the way. But that's a start on a base coat. So I think we make a decision on what our underside should be. And it looks like it's a little bit more yellow in the photo. Definitely a lighter color. So I got a couple different options. Let me see if I got anything in my stash of Reaper. I think we're at, I got like 4 different boxes of Reaper paints. I don't have all accessible for colors just yet. This one, saddle brown, no. More of a, is it this warrior flesh? Is that what it looks like? No, that's not it. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is busting out the wet palette and okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this Bane Blade Brown with XV88 base, and we'll see how that comes out. So, okay. That needs a good shaking. So I'm going to hit it with a Robot. This is a Robart hobby paint shaker, and you will find through the use of something like this that your colors will even change because you mixed them properly. And let's see how that goes. That's looking really close to the picture there. Okay. So let's hit it with some moisture. Just touch of moisture, 1 drop. And it has a very little pigment to go with it, but we're just gonna start it and see where we get on a couple spots here. So before I get too crazy, let's just see how that compares color wise. It's pretty close, right? I mean, you gotta account for the shine. It's got a little bit of that bare brown kind of look to them. So we'll just try to get underneath here as best we can. And I can just go back on top if I need to. Just trying to get the inaccessible part first. Paint's a little watery. Don't worry too much about it. Just get it on there, because there's going to be another coat and another attempt to get it all cleaned out. All right, let's do some more adjustments. So okay. Yeah, I don't have all the banter that Kenny Boucher and all the other folks have, but you know, sometimes you just want someone else to paint. And there you go. Here I am, someone else painting. So okay. It'll start to give me an idea of what it really looks like when it dries up. And then I'll be okay with that. Alright. Current brush I have isn't sharp enough to finish the spots I started, so I'm going to move to the other brush. My 000. Tiny brush that I got from Blick out in Santa Monica. It's a big paint store. every once in a while they get some cute art students to run the place. So that's always a plus. And then there's the friendly local game stores. Warhouse in Long Beach has been there since the beginning of time. And the guys over there have all the expertise. If you are a Warhammer or some other type of war gamer, X-Wing, any of that kind of stuff that I don't have much experience with, that's what they have. They've got a wall with, like, I'd like to say 1,000 minis on the wall, but that's just to say that there's a lot. It's definitely several hundred, but 1,000 is a lot, and I don't know if that's accurate. If you were looking for something Reaper, if you were looking for something, from an old RPG, then it's sitting there on the wall. So you see, I kind of gone in, and I think the rest of that part on the inside is pants. So just try and get as much as I can. I know I made, I got a little goop in there, but that's, like I said, I'm trying to go light with it. So we'll see how well that works out. There's a couple of puddles. Not the end of the world. This is the darkest part anyway, so we're going to go back up and highlight with colors anyway, so it's not going to bother me a whole lot if I don't, if it's thin or whatever right now. I mean, I just don't care. I don't care about messing up in general, because you can always fix it, right? People that worry about every little thing don't have a lot of experience. But if you got experience, chances are you've had to fix an F up 9 or 10,000 times, and it's just nothing to worry about. Okay. So following the lines. So I'm looking at the mini for the most part. So if I miss the chat thing, I'll catch it whenever I look up. So I got a question that you like the Cyclops. There's two Cyclops. There's the Rock Breaker Cyclops, and there's another Cyclops. There's like a male and a female. So you have to tell me which one it is that you prefer. But as far as the minis for part 2 of Massive Darkness, the ones that are done by Big Child Creative, and I'm not sure if these ones have also been done by them. They're neat, but they are less, how do I want to say this? They're less generic in their usefulness. I think if you're going to run Descent into Avernus, then you can really use the Hell and all the other stuff to maximize the benefit of your expenditure. As far as the look of them, I think they fit within the same universe. They're a little more detailed, like they've gotten better, whoever they're hiring for the sculpting. But I mean, you're not going to use that many Cupids. Maybe you're going to run in and have an Asmar or something that you'll run into as far as a Celestial. I don't think you're going to use them too much, except for playing Massive Darkness 2. And this is just, you just asked about minis, so I'm not talking about the game part. I'm just saying the minis themselves and their usefulness. They look okay for what they are, but 6 Cupids, I just don't think you're going to have much diorama needs for 6 Cupids, unless you're just planning on like an epic Valentine tribute, something like that. It's just hard to say. Now, if you want to talk about the game, I think the game looks fun. I like how they have every single character represented as a different mechanic on the board. That makes everybody feel special, right? And you know, that's good. That's good for everyone, I think, when it comes down to it. So I look forward to playing it. I played a little tiny bit, and then for whatever reason, I got kicked out of the tabletop simulator thing that I think it might have actually been one of the guys from Cool Mini or Not that was running it. Because they had an accent, like it sounded like one of the Brazilian guys that designs it. And they did a pretty good job of explaining. It's just one of those things where if you're playing with somebody that knows what they're doing, you're going to have a great time. Otherwise, it's going to take a little while. So I think it's going to be fun. I don't think I'm going to have as much fun painting the angels as I do like the hell beasts. But you never know. I think if I get a concept in my head as to how the armor fits and how the stuff looks, because you can go and get Turbo Dork has, I don't know if you can tell there, some interesting metallics. So if they have interesting armor to wear and I get to use those Turbo Dorks, then maybe it'll be fun to paint them. As far as the story goes, I hope it's good. 10 episodes. I hope they continue it. They didn't really spend as much time supporting Massive Darkness as they have Zombicide and their other properties, which is kind of disappointing. I wish they'd had some more game night and other types of retailer packs that they've done with their other franchises. So I think they're actually starting to end some of those retailer exclusives that were neat for collectors. Would have been cool. I think I'm gonna move on to the staff while other stuff's drying, and Steel Legion Drab. I think is pretty close, and it's going to give me some separation between the more orange color, and I think the most orange leather I have is this P3 Blood Tracker Brown. You can see where it's spilled all over the place. So it's fairly orange, and I think that's going to fit pretty well on those leather straps. So I'm going to go for the drab to represent the wood and keep letting the other stuff dry, and then we'll go back in and do some more coats. We'll see how that goes. If I didn't answer your question, David, feel free to tell me. But like I said, I think it's okay. I didn't necessarily buy or back it for the minis. I bought it for the game. I just wanted to play D&D, a lighter version of D&D with friends of mine that don't really know role-playing very well. And I wanted to be able to have kind of a campaign with them and just kind of get them used to the idea of these fantasy characters and what they represent. So I think that Massive Darkness 2 is a good way for me to kind of get them going by having a very finite number of options and things available to them and very clear objectives, like, you know, get to the end and kill the boss. So if I can do that with Massive Darkness 2, I think I'll be happy. So if it's a matter of comparison between Massive Darkness 2 and Massive Darkness 1, I'm more impressed with Massive Darkness 1's minis than Massive Darkness 2's. Just because there's a wider variety of them. So Oh, one thing I do that you guys don't do, or anybody else does, is I 3D print. Maybe that's better that way. I 3D print the little bases that go on there, and then oh wait, okay, stuck it back in the holder thing. And then I put magnets in the bottoms so that I can use it in multiple games. I can hang them upside down. I can do whatever I want with them. And then you can't see, and they're always labeled, and it'll always say Massive Darkness on the bottom when I flip it over. So I'm like, where do I put this back, or where did I get it from? It's like, oh, I took it from my Massive Darkness stuff. And that's very helpful. Let's start thinking about tattoos, because the skin is dry, but the other stuff isn't. What color does that look like to you? It looks to me like it's a mix of black and flesh tone. So I'm going to take the darkest flesh tone and the darkest gray that I have. So Necromancer Cloak from Army Painter is a pretty dark gray, but it's not black, so that should be fine. And then I'm going to take the base coat color that I used, which is this Rosa Marron, or Brown Rose from Vallejo's Airline. And I'm going to drop that in there. And the thing about, can you see it? It's kind of grouped together. The thing about Army Painter is it is kind of watery, especially on the tops, because they separate very quickly as it sits. And the Vallejo is very not so watery. It's kind of chunky. So mix them together. I use all that extra solution from the Necromancer Black and try to make it work. And we'll see what kind of color I get. Yeah, it's basically just a lighter Necromancer Cloak, which is fine. I just wanted to have a couple hints of that pink. So that it looks like it's, not uniform in the way that it's been created here. Alright, let's see what we got here. Just trying to trace the lines. And you got the photo up there, so it's like a double C, right? And that's one of the things, like when you're going to do anything on the flesh, like makeup or tattoos, throw in a little of the flesh color to go with it. And you guys can see a lot more than I can, because you're looking at the screen. And it's all zoomed in 60 times its normal size. So I'm trying to look at it with my eyeballs, because that's what I'm used to seeing. Okay. Oh, so David, thanks for watching, by the way. Here's the thing. I shake all over the place. That's what this here is for. Because I can set it against the table. And that's what's actually steadying it, is because you can hear it like smacking against the table. And my arm is braced against the table, and my hands are braced against the table. And I took a nap. So if I hadn't had enough sleep, I will just suddenly twitch, like it'll do that with the paint pots, and you'll see paint fly everywhere, and then I gotta spend an hour cleaning the place. So those are a couple of things like that where are gonna instantly make you a steadier person. Is give yourself something bigger to hold on to. So that's what this this little device thing does. And you can use I don't know. I got all these. Let me make sure my name's not readily visible on there. Yeah, you can't find me from here. So there's these pill bottles, and I put a little goop on top, and that's another thing that you can use to just increase the amount of bulk for you to hold with, and you can grip the thing and as tight as you think you need to, and that's going to help quite a bit with all of that steadiness. I'm not that steady. It's just I'm using the tricks to make me steady, and it looks that way. So you can go in and just keep doing it. And the other thing is my attitude of I don't care if I screw it up. I just go back in and fix it. If you got 90% of the paint on there and you screwed up 10%, you only have to go back and fix 10%, right? So I mean, even if you screwed up 90 or it's 10% of that 90, you know what I mean? The numbers come down. Now you're down to 1%. Third coat. Imperceptible problem, right? You just have to have the patience to go back and do it, and just have the attitude like, yeah, I'm going to screw up. So what? I paid for it. If anyone has a problem with me screwing up, they can pay me, right? Attitude is key for just about everything in life. And you'll go back and you'll repaint it, and that's gonna happen. And as you do, it's gonna look good. I was yabbering, and I don't know if I fully remember what we mixed, but I'm pretty sure because we had such thin coats, we're almost dry on a lot of that leather that's underneath the brown. So we're getting pretty close there. You want it to be as dry as you can be, because it'll start stripping the paint back off. So you either have enough on your brush to where it's not pulling away from the stuff you already put down, or you give it some time to solidify. And in this instance, we're just going to add more to our brush. And I'm going to go back with a higher tone, which is this X88. This XV88 Citadel base tone, and that's gonna come up to a higher highlight on the cloak stuff. The little bits from the dark is still gonna kind of come through. The black is still gonna come through in the shadow parts, but on the tops here, like right there, I'm gonna have more of that X88. Because it's going to be like the light is shining, and the light would shine from the top, not from the bottom. Unless he's sitting over a reflective pool of some kind, which, I don't know, maybe a shaman is, but right now, it's just going to be the good old sunlight, and we'll see how that goes. So, yeah. And then at a certain point, I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix a couple of spots that don't look too good. And I think I want mainly, well, not mainly to knock the camera over. We'll see how that goes. All right, here we go. I want mainly to try to like get the tops of, you know, the creases of things. And here's the thing, it's gonna dry. Never forget that it's gonna dry, and it may completely change the character of what you're looking at, because as it dries, it's gonna lose bulk, it's gonna lose moisture, and it's gonna deposit pigment differently. And you're gonna have the tops of things shining through just as the paint pulls away. So you just kind of go a little slow with it, and don't expect one coat to be the only thing you can do. And it's gonna blend better than you think it will. So I've got like 50 brown pieces of Games Workshop paints sticking around different pots, and I'm trying to like jump around them. Okay, so here we go. So like I said, we're gonna get the tops, just barely kind of kissing it, you know, not really doing too much. And it's where the folds are. That's really where anything that sticks up, and then the raised parts of a fold. Because I can go back and blend with a really thin paint, and it'll make that part work, and it'll come together. But it'll also kind of give me a guide as I do it this way. And I'm not saying it's the right way. I don't think there is a right way. But this is the way I'm doing it, and this is the reason why I'm doing it that way. So if I go back in, it'll keep that strong, lighter color. And as I said, since the eye picks up so much on contrast, it'll help keep the definition of whatever the piece is. Some people will go through with wet blends over and over and over and over again, and those people are getting paid, so that's why they do it. Hate to break it to you, but I'm not even monetized yet, so I'm just going to do this for me and my own personal satisfaction and what I want to play with. And here's the other thing. When I say what I want to play with, because I play with all my stuff, and that is the intention, because I thought that it would make it a lot more... what the heck just happened? I lost the chat. What happened to you, chat? My elbow clicked into something. Where'd it go? Jeez Louise, what happened? I don't want to send feedback. Just cancel that. Well, I lost the chat, so I really don't know what to say. It's like I clicked on something, or I bumped into something. Additional settings. I'd say, hey, let me know what I did, to fix it, but I can't see it in the chat anymore, so. Oh well. Yeah. Okay, tell you what, if you leave it in the comments, I'll answer you, because why not? Alright, there will be a comment after, and then it'll give you a notice of some kind that I answered the question. Typically, it'll do that. That's the problem with live, folks. At least you don't have to watch me chewing on my brushes and all that kind of stuff. You'd be like, oh, maybe some asthma people are into that, but I'm sure most people aren't. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Alright, and then there's just one section that's a little bit in here that I think is just a little too dark, and I wanted to bring up. But if you look at it now, I mean, even though I just did like a half tone and then brought it up with the regular tone, it don't look too bad. It looks kind of like there's a movement to it, and that's why you only do the parts that are raised, and it just looks like It has a little extra character, which is going to absolutely change as it dries. And I'll get another shot at it if that's what I want to do. Now, if it was too high of a color, then you just blend it with your 50/50 again and hit it with some thin solution and just go back in and do it, because that will change quite a bit of the look as you go over with the top layer. Just let me think about it this way. The top layer is the first thing to reflect the light. So it's gonna have some properties, and everything underneath it is gonna reflect whatever light was left over. So the order that you do it in does kind of matter, but you will retain those highlights. And that part is cool. All right, so that's his little hat there. Okay. Little bit right there. And in the picture, I don't know what that is, if that's like a piece of cloth or what. Like a bone of some kind. Or if it doesn't make it look like it's a tuft of his hair. Makes it look like it's another piece of cloth. I'll go back in a second. I'm gonna tell you guys a trick here. I don't know if you can see it. But yeah, you can tell. Micron 005 made by Pigma is just what I happen to pick up. And what I do, some people will they'll only go in the brush. And for me, I go in and I hit that little guy right there in the eyeball. And I'll change the focus. Just give me a second. I gotta get this thing out of my hand. Because I only got two, right? All right, where'd my focus buttons go? Okay, here we go. Now, let's see if we can get it to do it the right way here. You see how he's got eyes now? And the whole time you're like, oh man, I don't know if I can make a brush go that tiny. Well, you probably can't. So why don't you just get yourself a marker that's super, super, super tiny, and it's round, and you dot it, and you got an eyeball. And when you hit it with some varnish on top, like you can put some gloss varnish or something to make it look like wet eyes or whatever, it's gonna stay there. So why wouldn't you do it? Someone will have an answer why they wouldn't want to do it, but I don't have an answer why not to do it. I say give it a go. Be happy. I have, what do I have? I have something here for white. It's not a full white, and I have a different philosophy on white. I like to have stuff like this pallid worm flesh, and I like to have flayed one flesh that's a little more yellow. And I like to use the flayed one flesh for teeth and some bones, and I like to use the pallid witch flesh for white hair and other stuff like that, and the other bones. So if it had a horn and you wanted to differentiate between the horn, I'd put the bone in this one, and I'd put the horn in that one, and then they both look like they're different materials, but still like they look like they're bone. And this one, I'm gonna give that witch flesh a little bit of time to make me think that it's the right color for his beard. So, yeah. And the other thing I'd suggest is to not try right away to put a camera in your way if you're trying to remain steady. So this is what, like the first time out of 3 years that I'm like, all right, well, I think I can figure this out. Well, as you can see, when I lost the chat, there's some debate on that. All right. So one thing you could do that looks pretty cool is at the very top of the hairline there, you take your flesh tone and your hair tone and just real lightly, like almost imperceptibly, give it a little bit of a wet blend just at the peak there, because that's where you're gonna have that most separation, is right at the hairline. And see how you feel about it. I think I gotta go with a little darkness to the right under the lip and just give it a little bit of darkness into that, and a little bit into the streaks, a little bit there. Make them a little more salt and pepper. And one of the things I'm doing is just like straight strokes here, right? Because that's how the streak would be. And just kind of mixing them around together. Maybe I'll give it a little more white right at the chin, just a little more to kind of break that one little bit up. And I think that looks like a face. What do you think? Does it look like a face to you? He doesn't have eyebrows, and I don't think that's too big a problem. Let me see, is there a way to get the chat back? It's not like I can hit C or something. Analytics, stream health. If I hit edit, what does that let me do? Does it let me do anything? I don't know. Okay. We're going to keep going. See what we come up with next. I think we need to darken that up a little bit on the wrists. So I'm going to go back in with my furry color. What was it? Gorthor Brown, right? That looks about right. And see what we can do about this wrist action situation. I actually think my brush is too small on this one. Let me see if I got anything in between. So this insane detail Wargamer brush, I think, is an in-between from my Blix and my Regiment there. So I just needed something that was a little tiny bit bigger. And okay, we'll get in there. And another thing I'm going to do on those parts is, because they should have kind of their own shading from the indentation into the skin, is I'm going to hit them with a flesh wash. A little extra on the flesh wash. And just the spots that are in need of a bit more color separation between the pinks and the wrist. And that should also bring in some shadow detail just because it'll fit in the recesses a little better. But I have to let that part dry. I want to try to clean up one spot on the shoulder. And I'm going to use my flesh tone, which was that P3 flesh tone, on the highlight. Because that tattoo didn't go up that high. And see? It just melts away. Melts away. So, make sure it's fully melted away. Okay, so that's that mistake fixed. Oh, if only all the mistakes in life were that easy, right, guys? You're like, oh. Alright, so YouTube, if I go to my own channel, let's see. Alright, so YouTube, if I go to my own... Alright. Okay, so now I can see the chat because I opened up my own window in the chat. Alright, so for anyone that's just like sitting around watching it, cool. But at least I can see what you're saying now, and we'll go from there. Okay, I think the fingers are pretty dry. So the wood, I'm hoping, is pretty dry. There's a little bit, as I said, it's starting to like pull away from the edges. And that was supposed to be drab, I think. Steel Legion drab. So I might hit it back with another quick touch-up spot of the Steel Legion drab on these edges, particularly because as it dries, it actually tightens up, and that's how it pulls away. So you know, I'm not a paint scientist, as Bobby Boucher would say on the Next Level Painting channel, which you should check out for someone that knows what they're doing. And he's very, very good with an airbrush. He does all kinds of war game stuff, and I'm sure he would appreciate some viewers, considering how he also has different... he was going to be in Temecula, which is out in the middle of nowhere. The wineries and stuff are out there. But he was going to do a paint expo thing out there, and I was going to go. But I was like, I'm not going to go all the way out to Temecula. Like, that's out in Temecula. So I decided not to go there. I didn't want to drive for an hour just to go to a function for a guy who lives like 30 minutes away. I was just going, I'm going to wait until he decides to do something closer to home, or maybe just, pay him and I'll get a 20-minute lesson on something. So I bumped the camera a couple times, so unfortunately it's gonna happen. I'll tell you what color this is in just a second. It is a P3 color, in case you are wondering. You never have to use one brand of paint. I'm sure the manufacturers of the paint will tell you, we got something for everything, but they don't. You're either going to blend it yourself, get close, try to be happy, or you're going to invest in multiple brands. And this one's P3, and it's going over top of GW. It is P3 Blood Tracker Brown. And it is, I think, the most orange of the browns that I've got to kind of fit that very orange color in the artwork. See? And now that there's some color on there, I'm like, okay, so what did I not get color on? It is the side of the thumb. So that is a quick kind of fix with the flesh color. Whoa. And I smack somebody with it. And there's the side of the finger and the top of the finger and knuckles. And I'll just kind of keep them consistent. I hit all like that. And when it dries, and I think I need the lower pink for that one, maybe. That little gray spot that you can see, but I barely can. Okay. All right. Okay. So, you know, we're coming along. We got a tattoo. I can go back in with a little bit of that dark on the tattoo. We'll see how that recovers here. I missed some interior here. Wow. This is not a weighed down. It's a very tiny webcam that I'm trying to make work. It's a Logitech C920 if anyone else wants to get in and be a part of that streaming world life. I have a Brio somewhere in 4K, but I think this one actually works a little easier. What the heck just happened? All right. My wet palette had a little residue left of the cloak color. And I'm going to go in and fill that little tiny spot. Okay, so inside of the pauldron, it is not connected to the cloak in any way. I'm trying to find out how it's strapped in, if it's something that I could even see. There may be a tiny strap attached there in the arm, and it looks like I reserved a little bit of that black spot for a band. Okay, and around it, in the art, I can see there are horns, but it doesn't really give me an indication as to what materials might be under it, as like a gambeson style or anything like that. So I think that's his bare shoulder. And if it is his bare shoulder, I got to go in there and paint it with the flesh tone. So I'm going to start. It is also just a tiny bit shadowed. So I'm going to use the darkest tone, and maybe I won't highlight it quite so much. Alright, so let's look at it from that angle. Does that make sense? When we look at it, we go, okay, that's the story of this this shoulder. I think so. Right? Looks okay. I got a little dab there, but that's not going to kill anyone. Ooh. What do we think about that spot on the face, though? That's not hair. That should be pink. So I'm going to have to take a very small. Now, if you had a stream of your own blown up 11 billion times, then I think everybody would get a little better at their paint jobs. But let's see. I think we're okay. He does have one pectoral that I wish I could get in there a little extra. And then I have to go in and hit it with the tattoo paint. Clean it up a little. Okay. And I mean, when we start thinking about these tattoos and everything, I'm gonna guess it's done like Samoan style, where they have a bucket of some type of pigment and something sharp, and they just go in and they hit you. They lose like a gallon of blood. It is crazy. Did I lose? Oh yeah, I lost my own thing here. All right. Okay, so we have some more considerations to take into account. These plates here, if you look at it in the artwork, they look more leather than they look metal. So there's some type of stitched thing, like it's some kind of stitched flesh. So I'm not really sure what they are. They could be a boiled leather, because if you boil leather in wax, or you can do it in water, it becomes like a hard plastic kind of texture. When I was doing leather work, I gave it a shot, and I was like, oh my god, you can actually shatter leather. So it tripped me out. It was an expensive mistake, because it spent a lot of time, and then it shrunk down, and those leather shoulders are not cheap. So, not as cheap as another thin coat of paint, definitely. But I think that might be part of what his armor was. It would deflect an arrow or something for sure, but only one time because of the brittle nature of it. So I don't know why they would use that necessarily for his armor, but they might. There's nothing else here. They do have some steel, obviously, because there's going to be some type of steel on that shoulder, and then something on. I don't know if it's a verdigris, like a copper with a verdigris, but if that's the case, I think I have some ways to make it look like that, and we'll get there. Every company has a gunmetal gray, and GW's is called Lead Belly, or Lead Belcher. Lead Belly's a blues guitarist. And I think it was called, Kurt Cobain said he was their favorite guitarist when they did Where Did You Sleep Last Night on the Live in New York acoustic album, Unplugged Live in New York. So, okay, you find things out. All right, I organized some stuff, so we're gonna get in here, and we're gonna mess around. There are pieces of horn. There are other metals and stuff going on, but for the most part, it's just going to be a dark steel or pig iron. And I said I organized myself, and then where did I put it? I put it in front of the camera. Okay. All right. Let's see how much we can get on here without me tripping over anything. So usually you want to thin down your paints pretty good based on the effect that you want to have. And if you want things to shine underneath it, you want different like colors to blend and bleed through, then thin it down more. This is not one of those cases for me. I want this to have as much of this metal on there as possible, and I don't care what the undercoat thickness is too much. I might dip my we're man down, camera down. Okay, here we go. I might dip my brush in some water first and then try to dry it off and then hit it with the paint if I thought it was going on too gloopy. But I just opened this lead belcher the other day after running out of the last one and getting a new one. So I'm not that concerned with how this is going to lay right now. And I will tell you, I feel metallic is happening. Okay, so okay, so it's pretty much on there as a start, right? There's a couple things in construction you may want to think about. I get a couple spots that don't look quite right. But a rivet, see he's got the rivets on there that hold that piece together. They don't necessarily have to be made out of the same material. They just have to hold the material together and be kind of strong. So I'm going to go up a little bit in the tone. I'm not going to change the material just yet on these, but I'm going to change the tone. And I'm going to go to a different type of iron. And I'm going to use GW Iron Breaker. If you wanted to, you can use whatever you got. If I wanted to use something, Army Painter, plate metal would do. If you want to use, I don't know, anything else will be fine. What's this one? Chainmail Silver from Vallejo's Game Color line. You could use that too. I'm just gonna go something a little higher, and I'm only gonna do it a little bit. Why am I using the GW one? Because it's open. That's it. I might use be buying another one soon, and I'm gonna use this one up. The other ones I haven't used up yet, for no particular reason other than whatever I was working on at the time. So I want to go higher in the color with little spiky bits, because that makes them look more spiky. And it just gives it a little bit of extra shine, and that's what it's going to look like, is just a higher shine. If I really wanted a lot of contrast, then I would go in and do something more contrast. I would change it up to a brass or a copper or something like that. But that's not what I was going for too much on that. Now, I don't know too many metals that are that kind of blue that's coming off there. Stones are, and verdigris is. So if I have a copper that looks a little weather worn and it's starting to oxidize to get that verdigris, that makes more sense to me on it. And it's not going to rust uniformly necessarily. So I'm going to go under it with the copper and then put the verdigris on top. And it'll have a little bit of the copper coming through. I think that'll look nice. Copper being the first metal that humans could just pick up off the ground and then turn it into something by melting it down. Or maybe lead was. Because lead's a little softer. Either way, copper's one of the first. And it's not going to kill you or make your children drop IQ points the same way that lead will, right? So maybe the shaman would be smart enough not to do that. We'll see. But that's the direction I'm going. I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm not quite done messing with this pauldron. See the little horns that are on there? When I talked about how I like to use horn as flayed one flesh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm using a slightly smaller brush because the camera's in the way. So I'm still using my 000, but don't think you should do that. You can use whatever one you want to use. It's just the 000 for me right now is on the business side of the camera. So, okay. And I do the terrible thing that everyone tells you not to do. I dip my brush in the pot. And other than there's a little more oxygen gets in, and then you got to get rid of the paint. Other than that happening, it's been okay. The world didn't end. There might be an art teacher dead, but I won't know because I've never been to art school. So if you did hear from somebody that's an art teacher not to do something, yeah, you can listen to them. That's fine. You do that. But it was too expensive for me to talk to them. So this is what I get. It looks okay. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to tell you what one of my favorite colors of brown is, though, that I've got. As soon as I locate if I had an open one. I don't think I have an open one, so I have to open a new one. Ooh, you guys get to see an open new one. This is the Umbral Umber from P3. And I like using it for dark leather. I like it so much that I used one up and I had a spare ready to go because I didn't want to not have it available. That is high praise for a paint. I'm going to switch out brushes. I need something a little different. I'm going to switch to a Citadel layer brush. I probably bought this one at the same time as I bought this brand new P3 Umbral. And I'm going to go in there and, you know, leather, making black leather is a process. You end up having, let me give you a second. You go through with leather and you use something like a stain like this. Right? Use your stain on it. I don't know what you do in the fantasy era, and it still comes out a little brown. And then you go back through and you do more black and more black and more black. And it still comes out a little brown. And over time, it just ends up kind of looking like that. Let me see if I can get it into a different kind of focus for you. It looked like it was about it. It looks like that dark umbral brown. And because of the, because they're in use here, I'm going to put it in use here. I know, maybe I'm going to change my mind on that, but because here, these were fur, right? But the picture doesn't tell me anything about this side, but it looks like they're made out of the same. All right, fine. We'll just make it out of the same crap. Gorthor brown. All right. Whatever a Gorthor is, I'm sure it's a GW product. I'm not on the up and up of the Warhammer world. So, lore, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure it's called lore. When Jack Finch was still doing top 5 scary videos, then I would have probably been convinced to know more lore. But these new guys, they're not convincing me to jump in. Jack Finch was one of those guys that was just charismatic enough to get you to feel like it was ready to, you were going to learn whatever the SCP universe was and all the Lovecraft cool stuff, and he was so infectious with his enthusiasm. And he actually, like, if they said he were going to do some small movies, then they were actual small movies that had no budget, like mine. My no budget movie. And now they just do the same $1 million plus things over and over and over again, and that's kind of boring. Okay, let's see what we got. Camera moved a little, so there's that. Okay, feeling pretty good about the spikes. The pictures make it look like there's some type of extra horn coming off of it, but they didn't sculpt it that way. So that's that. Okay. Let's do some stuff that just needs to get done that I wasn't otherwise thinking about. I think this Banner Blade brown is going to be, or Baneblade brown, is going to be okay for the pants. But I got to get back to small brushes for that. I mean, they are almost the same as the fur, but I just don't see the pants being made out of the fur. You know what I mean? And that is just a little too much for me of the same colors kind of all going together. There's no separation between them. It just doesn't make me happy. Sometimes you got to get in there, twist it around, and see what you can make happen there. There's some spots in the crotch area that where'd the Baneblade go? I just had it. Every time I talk, I lose the pot. Here it is. It's under the mouse. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. We can bring it up a little bit inside here and go from there. And just get this little tiny bit. There's some skulls there, which is cool and all, but scale-wise, they look like they'd be for kids. Some sort of. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then we have the belt, whatever that is. I feel pretty good about Iridian Flesh from P3. Oh. So you can't really even see the pants, but there's pants there. But I think the Iridian Flesh from P3 is the way to go for the belt. Okay. So he's also got like the belt around his stomach area. And I think that's all going to be that same if I can get to it. Yeah, okay. I might have thinned it too much. We'll let it dry and then I'll go back in with the pink and clean it up. But for right now, it'll be that. And it's a struggle, man. It's a struggle with these videos. That's why I didn't do too much of them. This is the first one. Because I don't know what you do. I don't know what Bobby Boucher is doing over there at the Next Level Beats Lab. But it's definitely better than what I got here. Oh, man. I'm going to have to go in and fix that in a second. Alright. Then there's some type of... Ugh. Everything's screwy. I'm having a hard time. I can't see it. And I can't get to it. So what do you do in those circumstances? You move it out of the way of the camera. And you just hit it with the paint you were trying to hit it with. And you show people how to clean it up because you made a mess. So there's always going to be some reason why you do it. Okay. So I made a mess, but I can fix it. You can see the lines of where the belt around the waist and everything is, around the chest and everything, holding probably the bear onto him from the front. That's probably the function of those. And then we'll go through. I gotta shake this up a lot better. You can see me making a mess. But it's gonna dry. And then I'll have an idea of how bad a mess I made. And it's probably okay. Alright, there's that. Some kind of thing going on there. It's actually supposed to be a white tip to his beard, right? Okay. So many cables and things in the way. Driving me crazy. Alright, so there's that fixed. What else can we fix? Where is my khaki? I got a khaki color around here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Hammerfall khaki. Hammerfall khaki from P3. And I'm just gonna tag that spot under his head with whatever the hell that is. At least it's the right color. I don't know what it is though, but it's the right color. And then I can get in here kind of the same kind of look. Whatever that is, the plate of whatever it is. It's some type of leather sewn together. Okay. We got some shoes. Some shoes that need to get done. So, is there brown we haven't used yet? I like using this Mornfang brown for like a thick leather on shoes. Just to me, it always looks like thick leather, and when I need it, it's there. I don't have to sit there and go, oh, what kind of color do we have to make the shoes? It's like, it's going to be Mornfang brown. That's just how it's going to go. Opening up my pots. Get it in there. And there's certain things in life where you just don't want to make decisions. And I don't want to make decisions on shoe color. You can make that decision to not make decisions on ice cream. Everything is vanilla. Or, I don't know. I have 3 colors in my closet. Black, white, and blue. For just about everything I wear. So that they always match. Because I'm that kind of person where I was like, you know what? If I had to spend all my time sitting here figuring out what I was going to wear, I'd never get anything done. And that's how I feel about this orc's shoes. Or ogre's shoes. It looks like he has, it doesn't look like fur. It looks like it's just a flap from the leather. So I'll throw that in there. And it's thinned down just enough to where some of the other details come through, and I don't care if, you know, some of the pigment gets lost and a little bit of that darkness of the gray shows through, because that just makes it look like the shoe is dirty. And that's one of the reasons I do things that way, is so that it does look dirty. Man, this is going to be a pain in the ass. Get in there. Okay. Because there's times when you want it to look pristine, like a futuristic setting, and then, like, if... It's like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and everybody's just a dirt farmer. Come on, camera. Okay. Then, you know, that's what that is. Alright. So we got shoes. Those are in. We need to finish the other component. I don't have a perfect brown for this, so I'm just gonna have to, I think I'm gonna end up going back with Iridian Flesh, and see, I've been doing this too much now. I'm starting to drop the pots. When I was talking about being stable, and how if I get tired, then I end up dropping pots and stuff. It's one of those times. I'm not gonna worry, I'm just gonna finish. Okay, so I'm gonna get in here, and I'm gonna do this. For whatever reason, these are leather. And that kind of matches the photo. See, it's kind of like a cracked leather. Okay. And see, now that a lot of that's dried, I see that I don't really have to do a whole lot of cleanup. With from the Iridian Flesh being on the rest of the pink. I'll go in. Just do a little bit of cleanup. Just a little bit. Okay. Stick him back on the thing there. And I said earlier I like bone with the white. That is the pallid white flesh. So go in and give his skulls a little attention. Okay. See where some of that iridescent flesh got away from me. I can fix a couple of spots. Any shadows that you see, anything you think you missed. Touch-ups as you go. Not the end of the world. Couple of spots that don't look right because they're raised and they have missing pigment in them. Just give it a little touch of pigment in a couple spots. Okay. And yeah, it's hard to find the focus this close up, but I mean, he looks like he's the guy in the picture, or at least he started as the guy in the picture. There's a little unwanted brown in his beard. So that same white, I think I can bring up the way it was supposed to be. Single downward strokes make it look like streaks, and highlight the white, making it look like he's old because he's a shaman. All right, I had started with a little of the horn, but there are a couple of skulls in there, so we got to do those. So we're going to get those skulls. Some of these I'm pretty sure what they are, some of them I'm not. That is definitely part of whatever the heck that is. And then this is definitely a skull. And then there's just some like khaki straps dangling. And the question is, so that's gravity, right? So is it facing? If it's pushing down, then it has to be rigid. Or if it's pushing down, then it's not rigid. But if it, so like this here is facing down, so that's not rigid, so that's a strap. Our leather straps were the P3 blood tracker brown, so we're going to get some of those in there. It's going to start here, so that's where the straps are kind of starting at. And I mean, I couldn't find an art book but maybe there is one somewhere of the whole image, and that would be really helpful. If you've got that, then use that. If you don't have that, well, I guess my crap is as good as anyone else's. Okay, so I threatened some copper and verdigris, right? So I gotta pull the copper out. Okay. So this is fulgurite copper from Citadel. And especially these metallics, I'm going to use the Robart paint shaker to shake it, so give it a second here. Okay. So that's kind of coppery. I've already tipped this pot over before, so try not to do it again. You're like, oh, that's orangish. Yeah, well, copper's orange. And when it rusts, it turns to that green color, the verdigris I referred to. And we're going to make it all work in just a second. Okay. Because the art's our guide. The finished piece is what we live with, right? And we have to ask ourselves, can I live with this? Is that my beautiful mini? How did I get here? You know, don't make too many jokes because, you know, the algorithm's going to be like, oh, the talking heads want their money. Like, I don't have any money. They took it all. They got it from me in the 80s. It was all on cassette. Okay. So just trying to thin it up by spreading it around a little bit, any thick spots that were there. Okay. And the rest of that looks like straps. Looks like parts of bone and then straps. So, okay. Alright, and then we need to go verdigris. And the verd in verdigris is green. And the gris is actually gray, so it's a gray-green. Just have to figure out where I put it. There's this technical paint that Games Workshop makes that I really like using for this application that I can't find. Like, did I use it all up? I don't think so. It seems way more likely I just flat lost it than I used it up. Let's see. We got options if we need to. might need to. Okay. So it's kind of a blue. That's just me bumping into the thing. Oh, that's the problem with live, right? Sometimes you can't find your stupid paint, but you think it's there. I have no idea what I did with it, but it's okay. Probably just fell somewhere. Huh. I'm gonna mix some P3 Troll Blood base with P3 Trader Green, and that's how I'm gonna get it. So, wet palette to the rescue. Wish I had a better inventory system, but I tried over and over again. I just do not have the space to display properly all of the paints by color to make it really easy for me, because they would have to be really butt up against each other, and I don't have that kind of space. Okay, so move stuff around. Dip my hand under the wires. And then just kind of dab it in some spots. Most of it is coverage. Then kind of start wiping it off. Dry it just a little bit to wipe off. Okay. Ah! I'm all over the place. But you see that? So now it looks like I need to spread it out a little more. That's what it looks like. Dip myself in some pigment here. Okay. Now let's see if I can work a mouse to focus at the same time. As I should probably put some of these greens and things away. Okay. How's that look? And you can hit it with the brush and try to like spread it around some more, dull out the copper shine, and wipe off some of the verdigris, and it'll look, you know, weathered and rusted. And to me, that's what the picture calls for. Like, he's probably had this a long time, and who knows why he feels that way. Copper, I mean, you could rust out the shoulder as well, but if it's stainless, then I'm not going to worry about it. There's a couple touch-ups we can do on that bone. I just noticed the bone needs some help. The horn, as it were. And okay, so there. Okay, so there's a lot going on. I could take, right now, I could take a khaki or a really light brown. Let's take this Steel Legion drab. And we're going to do a couple of little highlight bits on this coat. Just to give it a little extra texture. And anything that is starting to wipe off a little bit, that's because it should have a highlight. And it's the mini telling you, hey man, don't forget to highlight me. Ah. Okay. So go through all the little telltale spots. And what would happen if I hit autofocus? Ooh. Let's see if, nope. It's like it decided that something other than the mini is in focus, right? That's just terrible. Alright. And just hitting it up, a couple little spots. You know, you could do, if you wanted, you could take your dry brush, your small dry brush, and do this a little faster, if that's your choice. And you just want to go against any grains. And that'll just help you get a little extra color. So let me find the thing that fell off. Okay. And it's just a little extra color to help make it all pop. So not the end of the world, not the beginning of the world, just a little something to make that kind of work. And we have most of it in, like it's mostly there and done. At least enough to be like, oh hey, I can play with this, right? You can sit there and dick around with it all you want forever and get every little everything, but you don't have to. You can get it on the table. Okay, so there were some some straps. There were some pieces of different things, kind of all thrown together. Try to make some sense out of the arrangement of where the straps and things are. Okay, and then for whatever reason this is colored the same as the bone on the graphic, so it's some kind of, I don't know, maybe like a penis bone or something for some animal that hangs off like that. They do that on occasion. The horn was a different white, so I'm gonna go in, hit the bottom, and re-hit the horn so that you can see it. Maybe how would that help? That would help, huh? And then give it that little tiny bits of color in there. I swear I will find out what I'm doing one of these days and figure it all out. Okay, so looking pretty good, right? Like you can kind of see all the leathers and skin tones, and he's got a face, he's got eyeballs, he's got a wicked looking staff, and it looks all right. It's all right. What else can we do? All right. At this point, if you got like 15 brushes just sitting around, it's time to put the little tops back on them so that you don't grab the wrong one. Try to get any paint you can off of them so that they don't dry that way. And then proceed with some new decision making. Okay, we got things to think about on this guy. Namely, I said we were going to go back in with a little bit of flesh wash and try to finish. So I think Army Painter has the best flesh wash. You can disagree, and I don't care. I've not seen any that made me go wow, and this was the first one I had, so out of a sample size of 1, then it's fine. I've seen other people do like wind wax, and I'm like, no, that does not look good. That looks bad. Dip method, I've seen people do that. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you I can tell when you did the dip method. So get to a point where it just looks good and you're not like, oh, you dipped it. Okay. And little stuff. This is where you can just highlight a finger or anything with the wash. A lot of people will do it different ways. They'll go real intense with the wash. I don't like to do that because then they go back up and then they hit a bunch of other stuff again. That's fine. If he's got a gnarly mouth, then he's like that kind of guy, then hit him in the eyes and the mouth, and that kind of makes that stand out a little more. So if he had any veins in the sculpt, I would go back with another color and do that, but I don't feel the need to do that just yet. Most of the time when you use an Army Painter or Citadel, one of these holders, you're not going to be futzing with the camera. So just because this thing keeps falling out of mine doesn't mean it's going to fall out of yours. I wouldn't want people to suggest that I'm thinking one way or another. Okay, so he's got some veins on his arm on the inside. They make a red tone. Where is that? And I'll take a small brush with a very little bit of that. Okay. And I'm going to go in. And that just brings it out a little more. It's not a lot. It's not a super crazy. Maybe I will go a little more crazy with it. I'm just having a hard time seeing over the camera here in order to be able to show you what's going on. Okay. Yeah, so when that dries up, then you're going to see that vein popping out of his arm a little bit better. And that'll be cool. So you see how he's got like a little gunk on the teeth and a little bit of gunk in the eye and all that. It just weathers it out a little bit. That's a helpful way to go. And when I came up in tones from, as you saw me when I was doing certain things, but as I came up in tones, there's only two colors here. There's the one Vallejo and the one P3, and it's just a matter of it's on the muscles, and that gives all that a little bit definition, and it also makes it look kind of dirty. You can like that or you can not like that, I don't know, but in this context of who he is, I think it's applicable that he should be a little bit dirty, because he's a shaman that lives close to the earth with the ogres. Okay, let me put some brushes away. So I can get these out of my range here. And then we got to start talking about bases. This is for Massive Darkness, and there's a lot of things that could happen in Massive Darkness, right? It takes place in caves, it takes place in all kinds of locations, castles, but it's all dark. It's all in the underground. It's nowhere super clean, and that may affect the way that you approach your base. I think it might be okay just to do like some stones, like he's on a stone path, but he looks a little more outdoorsy, so maybe I want to do dirt. I gotta make a decision, right? Let's say maybe not grass, but maybe a couple rocks or things. You think some sand might be good? Let me bring down my big box of terrains. And I have a bunch of different types of sand that might be appropriate. And I think for him, this ballast crushed rock look would look pretty cool, or brown battleground might look pretty cool. There is no green at all on his base, but I don't know that, or sorry, there's no green at all in his sculpt except for the verdigris. So some of it makes me think, oh, maybe we should try some green, but he's inside. He's in these caves and things. So part of me is feeling like maybe it won't work. We'll see. Let's take our good old PVA glue and flip it upside down and try to get it to the bottom, so we use up all of our stuff here, and then take in some hard considerations on this. On this base, I just think he'll look really good with some green. So we're going to do a mix of rocky and green on the base. So I have some battlefield grass from Army Painter, and I've got some ash gray from them. I think we just do a dip into these containers with multiple passes of glue, and that should get us something. So I'm going to give that a try. Alright, our glue has just about reached the bottom. Okay. Trying to be economical with the glue. So you don't have to clean it up later. And then whatever your least favorite brush is, take that least favorite brush of yours and get it in there. Move that glue around in there. Okay. And just like with paint, you might want to think of terrain with layers. Whatever your lowest layer is, it's the thing that's going to peek out through the others. So I'm going to say the heaviest thing is the lowest layer, and that'll be these rocks. Okay. I made a full-length feature film, and it was less of a pain in the butt than this Steadicam, or this webcam thing. Okay, so that's a start, right? We got a little bit of that on there. And then we're going to need some more glue on our piece here. Make sure it's all the way open. And keep flipping clean off your edges before you dip it, and then keep using your least favorite brush to give it whatever you got to give it. Okay. Knock off whatever excess happens to stick. But even that's not the end of the world, because, you know, that just gives the character weight, because they're pushing into the terrain. And then I'm going to go up with the dark ash color. And see how that kind of, because it's a smaller component, it just kind of fills it in a little bit. Get a little on that side too. And then I'm going to go directly, yabba-dabba-doo, into the bottom there, and kind of give it a little bit there, and then smush it real good into this grass green. Ugh, I didn't mean to drop it in there, but I did. And then make sure you close the container before you try to blow anything off. Okay, there we go. So it's got a little bit of green poking through, kind of like how I wanted. I do need to do some cleanup. Let's use this for that. Shouldn't be on top. So okay. But there's just little hints of green that pop through, and then there's the rest of the rubble and all that. And I could believe that there's a part maybe at the cave entrance for Massive Darkness that has a little greenery going on. Maybe it's not all dirt or whatever the case is. And to me, that fits. Now, because we're doing this real time, I'm not going to varnish it right now. But when it comes to the time, I like this Liquitex satin varnish, and I mix it down with Vallejo Flow Improver, those two things, and then I give it a nice thin varnish to go about it. Now, I may use this Liquitex satin varnish full strength down here to keep all these little guys in place. That glue's gonna come up over time. and dry, right? It's going to take like an hour. I like setting it on my monitor, where the monitor is a little on the hot side, and that helps bake it into place. Some folks may not want to do that for reasons of their own, but that's what I do. I like to use the heat source that I already have from what I'm working on in place. And that's pretty much complete. The only thing I did was I did a little base work before I started here. Not the end of the world on it. And you know, it's about real time. How long have we been doing this? We've been doing this 2 hours, and in that time I've lost the chat room. I've dropped the camera a bunch of times. The mini's fallen off the pedestal thing, my deal, a bunch of times. I've screwed up and had to redo and go back over the paint a couple of times, but we never stopped. Sometimes we had to go find paint that we needed, and in one case we went and looked and didn't find it. Thought it was there, it's not. Kept going, made the paint ourselves out of mixing. Problem solved. And that's just, you know, part of the hobby, really, is solving problems constantly, and figuring out what it is that you need and how to make what you want. And rinse and repeat, keep going until all of your terrible, terrible gray is some wondrous, beautiful plastic of many, many colors. Does that look better? That looks better. Right? If you got any comments, questions, concerns, if you enjoyed this, then maybe I'll do more. I don't know. I'll probably have pretty much the exact same things to say on everything else that I do. Are there others? Maybe I'll go get some others out of the thing real quick. I'll show you what some other pieces look like. I think I put all of these up on my Instagram. And my Instagram is dangerouslylowpaints. So you can go there. If David Vaughn comes back in, he said that the Cyclops was his favorite. And this is... she's a rather ineffectual Spear Maiden Cyclops right now. But... that's what she ended up looking like. I made some piles of skulls from CW or GW. They just had this big box of skulls that were on sprues, so I put that there with some rocks that I bought from Michael's that I've been repainting, or Joann's, one of those companies. And there's the hairy Cyclops Maiden, and I don't know, is there not really a better way, but so you can see how all the browns and everything go into it, different flesh tones, and with that satin varnish it ends up sealing everything pretty well together, so even these rocks and the skulls and everything are held in with that satin varnish. So that part's cool. This is another expansion character. That's the Elephant. And when I said, like, for this guy, he's fairly clean, and I just wanted to have the stone, like, paved work of some of the caves might have. So he's got these jewels on. You can see underneath Like, he's got a lot of work, and I figured he'd be an important type of person for that. As far as the base work that went, there's a giant spider, and I sculpted out of clay a little body to the same dimensions as one of the regular humanoid heroes. So that was the decision for it. And then I threw some cotton on top, and the cotton is held in place with varnish as well. And then this is all cork underneath it to give it that craggy appearance. So there's that. You can probably tell that the metallics have multiple tones, and that's because there's light layers of those Turbo Dork metallics over top the GW, the blue. You can see like the red and purples and the metallic areas kind of popping up, but as it turns, it goes back to the blues, and that's to emulate the chitin that the exoskeletons are made out of. They have different iridescence and shine, so just using those different interference type paints go along with it. To the naked eye, without the camera, it is much more purple. At the camera picks up different wavelengths, so it's going to be more blue. And then Hellhound, so there's like lava flows. The same rocks that are with the skulls, I just painted black that came from Michael's, so just reusing the same ones and holding that together with the lava back and forth. And then the flame is weird because it's the temptation is to bring things up to high, and you actually have to bring the tips should be the darkest colors, and then the insides have to be the lightest colors, so you have to paint it in reverse basically. So just one thing to think about. And then on the undersides of each of these, you might not be able to tell, it looks like it's a reflection, but it's actually painted a very light red so that it looks like a reflection. So that part was some solves to keep going on. So this is an ogre mage, ogre shaman that we did, and this is a different ogre, and I kept the family basically the same because of the way that the Vallejo comes up into the P3. That gives it the skin tones. This guy, I decided he'd be on astrogranite and a different type of dirt because he's a rock breaker, and maybe he'd be out somewhere dirty and dusty and all that. Again, held together with the varnish. So you can make decisions on if you like varnish or if you don't like varnish. This guy, I would put him in like, I used, so no, sorry, that was some kind of like Martian dust. This is astrogranite, and it's mainly to look like sewer sludge is what I kind of threw that in. Just muck, and that's where the troll kind of lives. So that's where that base idea came from. And I ended up using the same kind of effect. So like this is a water elemental, and I made a swirly kind of thing, and I just kept bringing medium up over and over again so that it would look like it was, you can see the light, like he's swirling because of the water, and there's iridescent medium actually thrown on all over the place so that it shines and glistens like water would. Not easy to pick up on a camera. This guy, earth elemental, but he's got a brick building, right? So he's obviously inside of the brick part. So I gave him the cobblestone base because he's in the regular city part. That's what he's attacking. Fire elemental, I figured would have the same thing as the Hellhound, but I didn't make the river of lava. I just kind of made the black bits coming up out of it as to where he was stepping, because hell versus where he's just standing, like he's charring the spots where he's on, as opposed to the hell beast you know, has come up from hell. So I thought maybe there would be an opening with the lava instead of just being hot because he's standing there. And this one was the air elemental, and I took latex and I just built up latex to give it like a whoosh in front, so it would be like a wind in front, and then left the rest kind of black just to not take away from this front piece that's almost like a cloud that precedes them. And though it looks blue, it's an iridescent blue, so it actually shifts in tonality as it spins, but it can't be picked up by the camera because I think the polarizing lens that's on the inside of the camera is preventing that. So that's some stuff I did. Reptosaurus Rex was some other one, and I don't know, I just put him in the city as well. He didn't seem like, if he's going to be Killer Croc or something, then he's a sewer dweller, but the sewers are in the cities, so he's coming up to attack that way. I could have got more creative, but I didn't, and that's what happens. I just noticed that my living construct fell apart, and this is another one where he I'm gonna have to find some glue, put his arm back on, but the Agrelin, maybe Earthshade on top of the cracked earth mud, and then on top of that the varnish to keep it from falling apart after it dried and did all its nice cracking. But I went in with another shade. Those are options, because I think that the hardest thing to come up with for an answer is, what do I do with the base for these guys, right? So if you're having a problem with that, and you're like me, and you're like, I don't know what to do with that guy, I'm not ready yet to figure out what the base should be, then maybe those are some ideas to help you out and keep you going. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, you wonder why I always use a Microsoft 4000 keyboard and mouse, if you want to watch my regular YouTube channel, if you didn't come here from the regular YouTube channel when this thing was put up live, then you can get all of your news for Kickstarters that are coming out in the board games and RPG space, because that's what I do every single week, is capture every single thing that's out there and make it available for you, so you can jump ahead and find all the cool stuff that's out. It's only the things that are out at the time, so it's not like, oh, Tantrum House does a big grouping and then all the dates move and you don't have access to the actual campaign because there's no links to it. It's just, you know, it makes it easier so that you can go directly to the campaign. It is live. You can talk directly to the people running it and all that kind of cool stuff. It's just a little bit of a different mix that some of the much larger channels don't provide. Speaking of much larger channel, if you want to help this one grow, like, share, and subscribe. That'll all be helpful. And if you want to throw in a comment about something else I can paint on the next one, be happy to do it. You guys take it easy. As soon as I figure out how to end the stream,